Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another live. I am joined by Strange Promi Brett. He looks a lot like a bald cat.
Morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you are.
And we have Sam from Life Afterlife ITC.
Hello.
So their links will be pinned to the top of the chat. If you guys have any questions tonight, fire them at us. We'll have a good, positive live stream. Hi, Kim.
Hi, Kim.
Hi, Kim.
Hi, Sky. Hi, Jazz, Daniel, David,
Jazz.
Jack, Jazz. Anyone else we missed?
Seagull.
Hi,
Seago.
Zigo.
Hello.
I'll say morning, afternoon, evening to cover everybody, Zigo.
Hey, Fairy. Good evening, good morning, good evening, and good night. Welcome to tonight's.
You've just said good night to everybody, so it's pointless starting.
Well, better end the live. Oh dear.
So, what's everybody been doing all week? I've had quite a fun week. I've been educating little Jazz on my bird channel. It's been quite a fun few days.
How is the bird channel going?
Quite well, actually. Gaining subs, a couple of subs every day, which is quite surprising.
Yeah.
I've got a cable being delivered today, so I'm hopefully, fingers crossed, going to be doing a test run on the new cam today with all the big extreme close-ups and the panning around and stuff. So that is dependent on Amazon turning up with the cable early enough, though. But yeah, it's going quite well.
I'm really looking forward to seeing Big Bessie in action, I have to say.
Yep.
It'll be good.
I've been working on... Well, sorry, Sam, go
on. Finish what you were saying.
I've been working on OBS this week. I've got all the new layouts set up and ready. So literally as soon as the camera's plugged in, we can switch over permanently to the new layout.
Nice. All right, Sam, what have you been doing?
I've been doing some sound checks for my other channel, which is the ITC channel and that, because I had come off that for a couple of weeks. And instead of having the sound picked up by a microphone, I'm going directly into the computer. And it seems to be working in that, and the filtering on the soundboard seems to work very well, taking out that sharpness and the static and stuff like that. If there's static in a Pacific radio or anything like that, it works pretty well. And then it all broke this morning. It broke last Saturday morning as well, before the stream, actually.
It's always the way.
Subs law.
Yeah. So things are sort of going up and down and kind of like that. Instead of having, like, ITC years ago, people would put out a spirit box and then record it and stuff like that. A lot of people are starting to go up a few steps, and you get left behind if you don't go along with it, like, I recently seen a video from Josh from Zero G ITC, and him and a friend are actually rigging up a car with ITC equipment, and it's similar to what I set up here. It even has a soundboard in the car, and they have separate headphones so they can intercom with each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of driving around and trying to pick up the best signals and stuff.
Yep.
So they're just going to drive around random locations and see what they get?
Yes.
That's quite a good idea, actually.
Yeah, haven't seen that done before.
I've done it before, but I haven't done it kind of high-tech, kind of putting it through a soundboard and streaming it, actually. They have a laptop in the back of the car connected up to the soundboard and 4 different channels going into it and stuff like that. It's pretty interesting. So rather than just having a stream every week, he's going to have this as well, you know?
That should be quite interesting, actually, to see if, different things come through depending on where they are.
Yeah. Because I notice when I'm driving around, you can hit these pockets, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Jack in the shop said I do that with a Wi-Fi antenna and a laptop. You should film it.
Yeah.
Whose laptop are you stealing to do it, though? Wi-Fi are you stealing to do it, Jack?
McDonald's free Wi-Fi.
I was going to say all his ITC sessions are outside McDonald's and Burger King.
Yeah, this says if they get stopped by the police, they'll be wondering, are they storm chasers or what are they doing?
That is, I suppose, if you think about it, doing something like that is one thing you have got to be considerate of. Because if you're driving around in a car with antennas and everything sticking off it, the police are obviously going to start to get a bit curious as to exactly what you're up to.
Pulling you up to see if you got a police scanner or something in there.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then they look in the back of the car and see all this equipment and that and go, what the hell are you doing?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Whose house did you bug?
When you said that, actually, with all the gear on the car and everything, I was picturing that movie Twister, where they got the vans and it's got all the antennas and dishes and stuff on it.
Yeah, they got the headphones and the big round. They're like flipping pilots, you know.
Oh, I had another Jason episode last night. I was doing a few more of the info boards on the new layouts, and that picture of the cat there popped up. Well, he's sitting behind me watching his bloody Star Trek on the laptop, and he went, "You ain't seen any bats on the channel yet."
He thought it was a bat.
He thought it was a bat.
God love you, face. Oh, God.
It was typical Jay's comment. It really was.
Oh.
The other one, he said the other day, he asks the most outrageous questions, Julie. He went, "What do the birds do when they leave your feeder?" Like I'm supposed to know. I said to him, well, all them goldfinches have just popped down to McDonald's for a burger.
They don't leave their address.
He asks some really strange questions sometimes. I often sit there and think, I wonder how his head works. It must be fascinating living inside Jason's head.
I tell you what, if you recorded like all of these little comments and that of his, you'd probably go viral for it.
And his freakouts.
Yeah. Oh, God love him.
But the bat comment last night, it had me in stitches. Because I'm looking at him. Well, I was looking at him and I thought, what's he on about? Bats? The only place I've got a picture of a bat is on the website. And then I realised the cat picture was up on the species board.
You should do that, just for a day, just for a laugh, on your cat panel thing. No, your bat, sorry. Put the picture of the cat and see how many people pick up on it.
But he genuinely thought it was a bat.
Oh, you've got to love him.
Well, I'm getting phone. I got phone interference then.
Yeah, I don't know if it was mine. I just moved.
Did you hear it?
Yeah. I normally don't get that.
No, not me.
I'm echoing. Yeah, Sam has had a little audio issue, so there's going to be a little bit of an echo.
You're going to have to live with it. We've got Sam on here now. He's took a bit of fiddle.
Yeah, it's the
I'm
only
gonna
way
try
we
and
can
come
get it to work.
I'm going to try and come down a bit. Let me see. 14, 13.
But if
We
you
can
hear
get
me
feedback from
twice,
the comments and see are you still getting feedback?
will they just get twice of me that way?
Yeah. You get double the value.
Yeah.
It's like a
The only
value
thing
meter.
is, when there's an issue here, there's so many cables, and it gets very complicated.
Yeah, it does.
See, this is why I'm glad I ain't overcomplicated my sound system, because I've got like 3 million things plugged into the back of my computer. I really don't want to add an highly technical sound system onto top of it as well.
Jack would like to know what happened to the red microphone.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it. I thought it went with my chair.
We
I
all
thought it was
like that
nice.
red mic, Sam. I think you should start using it again. I'm doing the head bob and everything. It's entertaining.
I think it's lovely.
Well, I am going to use it again, and I'm going to ignore the jokes. You know. But I got one of these systems where there's so many wires, and you dare not touch any of them because you might just,
wreck everything by pulling one cable.
Yeah, I started after I had the trouble this morning, starting to put patch cables together and guitar pedal cables together, because they don't tangle up as much as the little small ones, you know?
Sam, you have Wally in the background. Where?
Where's
the projector, I think. With the soundboard, with the mixer underneath it. Looks like Wally.
He just needs some wheels.
Yeah. Sam's sitting there now thinking, who the hell's Wally? It's written
Wally,
right across the face.
Microphone, or the robot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of them CD DJ things, and that is an 8-channel soundboard with a broken capacitor. It's a bit of an overkill. It's actually used for concerts and that, where you can have 8 different microphones for 8 different singers or whatever, band members or whatever.
Jesus Christ.
It's pretty huge and heavy.
Mm.
I run everything off a 4-channel.
So have either of you been doing anything ghost related this week?
Sam?
It's not a difficult question, girls.
Oh, I thought you were asking Julie. We had a conversation. I had a conversation with the 2 people that done the paranormal investigation in that boarding house, and one of them, Paddy, nearly forgot his name. Paddy is from Derry, right? And myself and Rachel were thinking, why don't we do an interview and stuff? And we kind of have a problem with that because Paddy is fluent Derry, which he talks about 150 times quicker than everybody else. And I have to get Rachel to translate for me. But we were having a chat, and we were having a chat about the last 2 premises they actually worked in, and the one they had left to move into this boarding house place was pretty scary in that, not visually or anything like that, it was how you felt. It was a charity shop with a big room upstairs, and they were using that for counselling rooms and stuff like that. And one night we had to collect a standing mirror that Rachel had bought. So Rachel had the keys of the shop, and that we went in. Next thing we hear heavy walking across above her head. And Rachel says there's somebody upstairs. So we went out, we dashed upstairs and there's nobody there. And then we says, well, Rachel had told me that there was a lot of paranormal activity up there. So we started calling out and stuff. We had no equipment, nothing. I'm sorry we didn't record it now. But next thing, you got this sort of, that kind of shaky, sickly feeling.
Yeah.
It's a warm night. It's not cold or anything like that, but you got this shivering feeling. It's this horrible shivering feeling. We were up there for a little while, and then I says, I have to go. I can't stay here. It was just intense, and I had that feeling for about 2 hours after I left the place. And that particular building is right beside the Tower Museum, which is steeped in history in Derry. It goes back to the 1500s and more, So there could have been an extension to that tower kind of castle building where that building actually stood. But they were moving out of that place and they moved into this other place. And this other place used to be a hostel. And actually, there was a painter up on the ladder painting away. And next thing, this backpacker walks past. And he goes, so sorry, we're the hostel's no longer open and that. And they just disappeared. And then there was doors banging and opening and closing and footsteps. And they went from one haunted place into another haunted place. But the people I wasn't insured to investigate in those buildings. Rachel was, but Rachel's no longer belonged to the company, and that we don't have any. We don't have any access to any of that. What's happening with them? But as far as I know, they're now leaving. They're now leaving the building that they just moved into. So that's why I released the video, because the people didn't want us to release the video. But now that they're leaving and they're not paying any rent, I said, flip it, They probably don't even see my channel anyway. I'll just put it out. Because I sat on that video for a year,
Well, you didn't identify the place or anything either.
No, what I had to I blacked out. I blacked out a big sign that was outside one of the windows in the room.
Yep.
And that would have given the location away. So I blacked that out on that. So yeah, so we're no longer associated with all of that. But it just goes to show that the area itself is quite steeped in paranormal history and history itself. It was a city surrounded by a wall, and way back in the 1500s there was a siege, and there was boats sank in the river and strewed across the river, so food couldn't get in ships. And I've been in one of the museums where there was advertisements for rats, dogs, cats, mice to eat.
Yeah.
That's how bad it was. And then we discovered, Paddy discovered, that there was a couple of bodies discovered in one of the car parks. And, obviously the police were called. There was workmen doing work, and they discovered a skull and some bones. And then they discovered something like 6 bodies, I think it was. And it was determined that these were historical remains. So archaeologists came in, and I think they only got about 2 weeks. But if they had more than 2 weeks, they said that they may have discovered more.
Wow.
Yeah. This area has a big mystery, and I've never actually seen it. It's a catacombs. It's tunnels under these walls. Now, when I talk about walls, I'm not talking about just a wall. I'm talking about a wall that's as wide as a road. And in that wall is a tunnel system. But I've never seen it on video. There was one video, and it was removed for some reason. So there's something secretive about it, you know.
Mm.
You know, it was accidentally discovered in a bit. One of the entrances was accidentally discovered in the basement of a house.
It's probably in part to stop people getting in there too. Because you look at the
Yeah,
Paris catacombs, there's people that live under there.
yeah.
Mm.
There's also a tunnel from the cathedral out to the outer part of the wall as a kind of an escape tunnel way back in the day, but that actually was bricked up. You know.
Yeah.
Fuck's, I wonder why did I come up twice.
It took me a second too. It's like, is he copying Sam's screen? And then I saw the writing. I was like, oh.
I don't know how to do any of that stuff. I'm really illiterate when it comes to technology. I sort of mess around and see what works.
Oh, great.
We actually had McDonald's last night. It was quite nice.
So if anyone has any questions while we're talking and that, just throw them up. He's terrible. It's like Muriel's wedding. You're terrible, Brian. Yeah, I haven't been doing anything.
Yeah.
Editing.
I've got to get a new editor because I was actually using Adobe, but I've cancelled the subscription now because it was just getting too bloody expensive with Photoshop and the video editor and everything. I think it was clocking up around about £30 a month. So I need to find a cheaper alternative.
Yeah.
Because I use GIMP for all my graphical stuff now because it's pretty much the same as Photoshop, and it's free. Yep. It's open source. So, but I need to find like an equivalent video editor type thing.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? It needs to be affordable, but it needs to actually do the job at the same time.
Yeah.
Mm.
I'm on that Australian editing software.
What's that, Sam?
I can't remember what it's called. Hold on a second. I should be able to remember. It's just fucking letters, like. VideoPad. Video editor.
I've never even heard of that.
Hold on a second.
I'll have to look that one up.
Actually, I've been using it from day one, and it's so flipping easy. Let me see now. NCH.
Hey Julie, I'm gonna blatantly advertise now. Sorry.
No, go for it. Yeah.
There you go.
Good. Link pinned to the top of the chat. Drop your links if you've got links. Drop your questions. I actually have a video series that I am to start filming very shortly. I've been waiting for a bit of warmer weather. But it's going to be a little controversial to some people. So I've just been thinking about the best way to go about it.
What is it?
Well, I don't want to say here.
You can't bring half of it up and then not say the rest.
She doesn't want to get cancelled now. She wants to get cancelled later.
No, I just don't want people to steal my ideas because they do that sometimes.
Are you
I'll
still
tell
going to
you
do
later.
that? Are you still going to do that weekly spirit box session in the graveyard? In that
Oh
graveyard?
yes, I'm still doing that. I've got the next one edited, ready to come up. There was a small break in between where I didn't film, but I am doing it again. So I have continued that. But yeah.
That's an interesting question in the comments. Hi guys,
See,
what is the most? Why is it that most entities through the box ask for help? I've got to be honest. In all my time of using the spirit box, I don't think I've ever heard anybody ask me for help.
I got it in an EVP, but I get it on the Spirit Box a lot.
Mm.
Actually, that was actually mentioned in Steve Huff's communication with me. I wrote a comment. He done a video and he says if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask. And I said, right, I'm going to take the opportunity to see will he actually answer the question. So I had about 3 questions, and it was a big, long, massive comment in that. Next thing, day later, I get a reply to the comment, and I look at the comment, and it's like a book. It's got paragraphs and paragraphs. And he mentioned about, spirits asking for help. And he says, if you got dark energy, you attract dark energy. You attract lost souls and stuff. Now, he puts a lot of this stuff out as facts, which I don't agree with, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it's I will consider it as a theory kind of thing. But I actually had EVPs help me, EVPs and stuff like that, and I get it a lot on the box. So maybe I have some dark energy. I don't know.
See, I think something along similar lines, but not the same as that. I think if you go on if you start a session and you're asking people if they need help, you're putting something out there, and I think you're probably more liable to get that type of response back if that's what you're putting out. You're looking for.
Mm.
See, I've never gone on a spirit box session and said, "Is there anybody out there who needs help?" Never done it, and so I've never actually got that kind of response back. But I've noticed those who seem to go along that avenue of claiming that can cross people over, which personally I don't think people can do. I
No.
think you're more than likely to get that kind of response back, and possibly that's why.
You
That's just
you
my opinion.
you've got to look at it from a different point of view too. This is where the sometimes it can get a little bit confusing because when you look at how they communicate through a spirit box, a lot of what they say is going to come through in just a couple of words. They don't give you whole sentences. And so when
Mhm.
they say, help me, it could be them asking, help me, how do I communicate with you? How do I
Yeah,
do this properly? It could
yeah.
be asking for help in many different ways. It may not be
See,
just like, you know,
the thing is, Julie, with that you've hit it spot on there.
mm,
What comes through is very flat. There's very rarely a tone to it,
hmm
so you don't know whether they're saying "help me" or "help me" or how they're doing it.
yeah,
Because a lot of the time you're not getting that context of how it's being said. A lot, it's just the words you're hearing, and a lot of the time it's said in a very neutral tone. So, as you know, words can have 1,000 different meanings depending on the tone of how it's presented.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, when I get a response like that, I'm just kind of I don't jump at it because I'm thinking, what context could that come up in a radio broadcast? Because after all, we are using a radio broadcast to do it, and that.
Mm,
And it was one of these points that Steve actually made, in his reply to me
I'll be back in a sec.
of why he doesn't use the radio anymore, that he uses, a sound bank of sort. He reckons I'm not, he's putting it out as facts. I'm just repeating back as a theory that the spirit box, when the audio is chopped up like that, there's a, you get in he says, a spirit that will contact you, and then you lose it, and then something else comes in. He says they you need a constant stream of audio to keep one spirit talking to you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Do you know? I don't agree with a lot of things he does, but I'm not a type of person that will throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's something to take the piss out of, I will take the piss. I hope he doesn't see my Fuzzy Bear video. But I often ask, how can we improve the communication? That's one of the fundamental questions, because you get 4 or 5 words, you get a good long sentence there, like, you know,
Yeah.
and that's it. The rest of it, is 1 or 2 words that you can possibly fit into an as an answer to a question you asked. It's very, very vague at times.
Yeah, exactly. Um, Keys says, to me, many of the entities are in an unpleasant place. I assume they might need our prayers. And they also asked us to elaborate on the comments, leave or get out, that we have come through. I think that this is where the paranormal can get tricky, and this is why we try to give our opinion, but not step on anyone's shoes, so to speak, because um, a lot of people are going to have different opinions on the paranormal. I could sit up and here and say to you, um, I don't believe that they get stuck. I believe that they can move on if they want to, and sometimes there's negative ones that stay here and all of this. But someone else might believe that, well, some of them do get stuck here. They have unfinished business and they might need a prayer or something to help them cross over. It's
Yeah,
something that we may never have the answers to as well.
yeah. I was looking at Joshua Sean, Zero GITC's first live stream, and he says, I have been an ITC researcher for decades. I'm an audio engineer. And the one thing that I can tell you right now is I know nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know?
Yep.
And that, it's that's the way sort of the paranormal is,
Mm.
because it is actually it's really, really complicated. Do you know?
Yep. No one has all the answers.
Yeah. Do you know? There's a few that say that they have, but that can be out of ego and these people that are sort of self-righteous, kind of, I'm a professional kind of thing. But at the end of the day, if you look deep enough, you won't see the facts. You'll only see theories. You know.
Mm. Yeah, well, that's like since I started in the paranormal and ITC and that years ago, my beliefs have changed so many times. I came into it thinking that I knew that there was an afterlife, and I thought that, sometimes people got stuck here and they needed help passing over, and that. Now, I wouldn't say that it's hard to explain. I don't know where they go. I know there's an afterlife. Um, I know they're made of an energy. What kind of energy? I have no idea. It's like the spirit box sessions that, you've touched on and I've started touching on. We know that spirits have the ability to come through and communicate with us, but what else is out there as well? And is it always spirits that's talking to us? What else is out there?
Yeah. And I picked up on an interesting point in the communication that I had yesterday or the day before about visual. You know these people that pick up these sometimes very clear images in TV screens, in black mirrors, in water scrying, and that. It was described to me as not the image is not what they are now, but like the radio, the ITC, the manipulation of audio, it was the manipulation of grain, and what the camera does. So it's a manipulation of the camera, it's a manipulation of the environment to show you a picture of what they once looked like. That was the theory, which I kind of get.
Yep.
The person says that these entities don't look like that now. They're an energy form, but they can show you what they once looked like by manipulating the environment and manipulating your camera and your equipment to let you see what they once looked like.
Yep.
Take that whatever way you want to take it. You know what I
Yep.
mean? But
Yeah,
I
exactly.
thought it was actually interesting.
Yep.
You know?
Seago says not all ITC investigators distinguish between intelligent responses and just random responses. I never used to. That's before we even get into the fakes out there. I think that the spirit box is a great tool. I think it has a long way to go, though. How we're going to get there in producing it from what it is now into something that's going to work really well, I have no idea. Someone will come along one day and do something great with it. I have faith.
Yeah, there is a lot of flaws with it, and it's a kind of a frustrating thing because we want to get beyond, we want to get a longer communication, we want to get clearer communication, but we have to fully understand how it happens in the first place in order to sort of move forward, rather than having a shot in the dark. You know,
Yep.
there's theories out there. They're not fully they're not fully scientifically backed. Scientific community doesn't really get involved in ITC, to be honest with you, because they consider it kind of spirituality, and
Yep.
they don't want to step on. They don't do spirituality. They
Exactly.
they deal with facts
Yep.
and things that can be replicated. ITC, when you do a session and that, it can't be replicated
Hmm.
because that audio will not come up again in the way in the form that it's coming up in. It's
Exactly.
randomized. Yeah.
Yep. So Sky says, "Hi guys. If ghosts are in the realm of the source being the realm of God or energy or the light, and all things they say come from and return to, that would mean other life forms in the universe too, right?"
Yep.
Yep, I
But
believe so.
the only thing I'd say about that is, why does it have to be connected to a god? It could just be an energy source.
Yeah, I think what Sky is saying is, like, we believe that there's this source that we all go back to. Some people call it God. You know what I
Mm,
mean? Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I've asked the same question a number of times. How many worlds are there? I'm getting two very common answers. One of them is three, and the other one is eight. So, um, you know, scientifically and with rockets and stuff, we can only get to a certain point. But the universe is huge. There's a lot of the universe that science doesn't even know anything about. So we just don't know. You know.
Yep.
And when when people in ITC talk about levels of existence, we're talking about similar things like frequency to radio stations. You have the signals of radio stations around you right now.
Hmm.
The radio is a receiver, and you can receive all them radio signals, but you can't actually see them now. But just because you can't see them doesn't mean they're not there. It's
Yes.
the radio is the receiver that taps into all these levels. So, I have the local radio station in town here. I have another station in Belfast. There's another one in Letterkenny. There's another one in Dublin. And they're all coming in at the same time. And they're different. They're all separate radio stations. So that they're all separate levels of existence.
Yeah.
So if you looked at it in a spiritual kind of way, that would fit into a theory of different levels of existence, you know?
Well, I think Buddhism describes that because they class it as different vibrations, and as you know, vibration is frequency, and
That's right.
frequencies are unlimited like numbers. So that could be quite possible. So
Yeah.
I'm going to check my fire. I'll be right back, and I'll move my phone in case it's mine.
it stopped.
Oh.
So yeah, it might be yours, Julie. So have you managed to install all your cables in your new sound system now, Sam?
I did, and I plugged them all out this morning because something went wrong.
So you ain't tried doing a spirit box with it, yeah?
No. I'm going to try. I'm having a power issue, and I'll squeeze it with the pliers and see if it tightens up properly because it's just not. It's losing a connection there. And wire it all up, and hopefully it'll work. And with the thicker wires, it's going to be less of a bird's nest. Because if you have 4 channels and then 2 out channels, one to the computer, one to a big speaker so you can hear it, and that you sometimes end up with a big ball of wires that end up tangling and getting into a big mess, and then you go touch it, and then everything just goes off, and you don't know what has gone wrong.
Yeah.
And you end up having to dismantle the whole thing again with the guitar pedals, cables. It's less complicated, and they're better shielding as well. I was having an earthing issue, and I couldn't. When I done the video yesterday, I couldn't put myself on camera, and I couldn't record myself because I done a screen. I done a screen shot on that. And I could get visuals, but I couldn't get audio. So I ended up having to overlap the audio by recording it on a Zoom,
Yeah.
a Zoom recorder and that, and then putting that in because nothing was working on this. There was this big buzz, and it's an earthing issue that happens,
Mm-hmm.
You could also have dirty power. You can run a soundboard directly from USB in the computer, and it's cleaner than plugging it into one of them phone plugs and plugging it into the wall.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting. I'm getting a buzzy, dirty power source that goes through the whole thing and gives this buzz. And I can't use plug-in power source because the signal is dirty.
Yeah. Jazz has just put there's so much we would love to discover, but I don't think we will in my lifetime. Personally, when it comes to things like life after death and ghosts and stuff like that, I don't think we'll ever know the answer to them. I honestly don't. Because, like I've said before, I think the consequences of proving life after death would be catastrophic.
There's been a couple of very close things in regard to energy cameras. Cameras that can pick up energy, and what happens is it's similar to thermal, where you got the image, you got the blurry image of the mass of energy, But then that camera also takes an ordinary image and layers it on top.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
with thermal and some of those, you have an ordinary camera and then you have the temperature camera, and it's not one image. It's actually two. It's a real image, and then there's the energy image or the heat image that's layered right on top of it, so
Mm-hmm.
you know where that energy is, and it gives you that visualization. You know, but there's I seen video about 10 or 15 years ago of guys that created a camera that actually could see Wi-Fi. So that's kind of close.
Yeah.
You know.
I know there's cameras that can like see magnetic fields.
Yeah.
So, but I presume they're quite expensive. But if you could get like a commercial version of something like that, that would be like the visual version of a K2 meter.
It would be, yes. It would be, and then you would actually be able to see where the sources is.
Yeah,
If it's artificial and that.
yeah,
With ordinary EMF detectors that people use in ghost hunting, unless you follow the strong signal and keep following it, you're not going to find the source.
yeah. See,
You know.
I think when it comes to equipment in the paranormal, I think in some respects, the more technologically advanced we get, the more problems it causes, and visual stuff is the perfect example. Years ago, when we were just using analog cameras, for want of a better term, the images were much, much harder to fake and mess with. Nowadays, with all this digital imaging technology and software and stuff, nothing can be trusted visually, nothing at all.
Yeah, you mentioned the stuff that people bring on a paranormal investigation or a ghost hunting. It's not. Most of it gives you more questions than answers. It
Yeah,
just complicates the issue. In order to get to the bottom of it, you need to go higher tech, which is out of the reach of most of us. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
and some of the technology that is used needs to be worked on a little bit more.
yeah,
This stuff about flashy balls and stuff. Yes, if you get it's a kind of a 50-50. Did it go off because something went close to it or whatever? And then the cheap Chinese mass-produced things, and it starts to make things a lot more complicated. You know. Yes, you can possibly get responses with motion detectors and these other things, but it doesn't give you the fundamental answer of what's doing it and how is it doing it. REM pods, same thing. You know,
Yep.
you have to try and get to the source, and that was the one episode that I seen of Skinwalker Ranch where they got this weird EMF spike,
hmm,
and they didn't know where the source was, so they dug down. And then when they didn't get anywhere there, they put a weather balloon upwards to
yeah,
see is the signal up there. We can't do that kind of stuff with just
yeah,
an EMF meter.
yeah,
Do you know?
yeah. Do you think the governments, with in their day-to-day things, have probably accrued a lot of data that they don't want to put out there? Not necessarily looking for ghosts, but during things like doing weather surveys and stuff, do you think they've actually come across stuff like that they've thought, let's not mention that?
Absolutely.
Possibly, yeah. I think when it comes to that, this technology that we sort of need, very often, very often, it's the same with sort of night vision and thermal and all that. It all goes back to the military and that.
Hmm.
and we don't get to know about it, or we don't get to have it until they find something better. And the reason why we don't get to have it is because it's new technology and they don't want the enemy countries to have it as well.
It's a tactical advantage, isn't it?
What it is,
Mm.
do you know, there's certain powers of night vision that you cannot take out of the US. You know, so we
Yeah.
can't have it. You know. But at the same time, digital night vision is not as good as the old fashioned night vision. I can't remember what you call it, where it's a tube. Digital night vision is not the same.
Yeah. Do you think that there's any truth in the rumours that a lot of modern day technology goes back to things like Roswell? There's a meaty one for you to answer. Because there's a claim that night vision was actually developed as a direct result of technology found in the Roswell crash.
That's a possibility. You know, possibility.
Because if you think about it, it was only post 47 when these sort of technologies suddenly started emerging. So, that does reinforce the argument that was where I ain't saying that is where it came from. But, there's if you look at history from the very late 40s onwards, that is when technology suddenly started ramping up a lot more. And you'd have thought it would have been more so during wartime when nations naturally up their scientific research. But a lot of the breakthroughs didn't actually occur until the late 40s.
Yeah. Yeah, there's possibly still a lot of secrets there, like.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know? Then you look into things like NASA, what the NASA has brought to us,
Exactly.
and now we have private companies, that do what NASA does, and they could come up with discoveries. So what the technology in the future is going to be, it's pretty good because you've got all these sources that are coming out with different things.
And I'm just responding to Keys. What do you think on that, Julie?
I think I think that I know that we haven't been told everything, and when there have been UFO crashes and that, they keep that all top secret. But I think that what we do know, it would be interesting to go back, and somebody might have already done this. Look at when these kinds of events have happened, and have a look at the jumps in technology that we have had,
Yeah.
because that would probably give us a really good indication of whether this technology is coming from somewhere else.
Yeah.
Looking back at our technology, you can see where for a long time everything just kind of stood in a standstill through the 80s and everything else, and then suddenly we had mobile phones, and then we had computers and tablets and the internet and everything.
Yeah.
It kind of just took off. So
There actually is supposed to be classified technology, paranormal technology, actually in the Vatican. There was a rumor that there was this machine, and it was linked to a certain guy who I know was mentioned by Annabella Cardoso, and she's an ITC researcher. And this basically gives you images from the past by picking up residual energy. It's like in simple terms, it's like a spirit box, except for it's a TV.
Yeah.
And it doesn't pick up. It's not picking up the radio stations. It's picking up residual energy to create images of what was in a certain place way back years ago, and they
Mm.
picking up the residual energy left behind, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But there was somebody involved in ITC that says that this device is real. Do you know?
Well,
But that is a mystery.
the Vatican is rumored to have a lot of stuff down in there. It's basically in the crypts, isn't it?
Yes.
That's where they keep everything. But it ain't a dark, dingy place. Apparently, it's cutting edge technology they've got down there in their archives or whatever you want to call them.
Wouldn't that be
It's
cool though? If you had a tool that after a spirit had showed itself or whatever, could actually trace the energy, that source that was left behind, like the trace. I
Yeah,
mean, we're going Ghostbusters here, but
but
anyway.
but you imagine the ramifications of something like that if they could actually, you know, build more copies of it. Murder on the planet would have to stop instantly
You imagine if
because
they found
you
out
know
that
you could
energy.
you could just go straight back and find if somebody was murdered. You could just set the little machine to go and look who did it.
yes.
Mm,
It's believed that it's kept secret and kept locked up because it has implications for mankind
Yeah,
mm.
that could be negative.
Well, you think about like if there was spirit is energy, right? When we die, we change form, we become an energy source. What if there was somebody for the wrong reasons who was able to harness that energy and use it for something else?
yep.
You never know.
Well, look,
Yeah,
that is pretty much along the lines of what they did in the Matrix film, innit? Where the machines were using humans as batteries.
Exactly.
That would just be the next step.
the the problem with all of that is science won't get involved in it. One, because it's kind of it goes into spirituality, and two, there's not money in it. It only gives us an answer of what happens when the human body dies, but there's no. Do you know the research will cost money, but there's no return on the investment.
But
If
the
you know what
thing,
I mean?
yeah, the thing with that though, Sam, is if you look at the flip side of that coin, is it a case of disinformation where science actually is researching this kind of stuff, and because of the economic implications they have got from it, they are poo-pooing it to, you know, stop everybody jumping on the bandwagon with it. Because, like you say, if they could prove that there are spirits and they are an energy source, imagine how rich the scientists who develop some way of utilizing that energy would be. So it could be
Yeah,
that this kind of stuff is being investigated and it's deliberately being poo-pooed to prevent the rest of the scientific community developing an interest in it. You never know.
yeah. And I mean, like, they get a little bit of a foot up with some paranormal investigators and some ITC researchers, that have been in the field for many, many years. They just don't know about it. These people, these veterans of ITC, say the scientific community doesn't give two shits of what we want to do.
Mhm.
We've reached out, and they don't want to know. But maybe they do, and they're picking apart the information from afar and using it to do their own stuff. Who knows?
So I'm just replying to see you go. You two can carry on.
Sky said to me, um, maybe meant to run out so a new cycle can begin. Always destruction of something before creation. If the life source is the energy, though, can that be recreated if it's destroyed?
You can't destroy a life force. If it's an energy, you physically cannot destroy it.
So it would be everlasting?
Yeah, and that is one of the basic laws of physics. Energy cannot be destroyed, only altered into another form.
That's how my science teacher got me to believe that ghosts possibly exist.
Yeah.
He kind of let it slip out, and I asked him more questions. Turns out he was mad into the paranormal and ITC and stuff. You know.
But eventually everything comes down to energy. Everything even matter eventually breaks down into energy. Everything. And it's like when people go on about, we need to save the planet. We can't save the planet. This planet is doomed. Eventually, the sun is going to turn into a red dwarf and swallow this planet at some point. It's not that the planet needs to be saved. It's just we need to save, the amount of livable time there is on it. And then what happens? When all life on Earth ceases to exist, which it is going to at some point. That's inevitable. There's nothing that can be done to stop that. Where is all this life energy going to go? Is it going to go to somewhere else in the universe and start again, or is it going to spread all over the place, or what?
Well, who knows what's in the universe?
Well, we know everything. We know that we are created from stuff that originally came from space.
Mm-hmm.
So who's to say when we die and our energy dissipates, who's to say we don't go off through space and start life somewhere else on another planet?
Yeah, that's one of the things I kind of was asking myself. If we produce energy and we continue existing in an energy form outside the human body, would our energy be contained in the Earth's atmosphere, or would it be able to go beyond that?
Well, technically, I'd have thought it'd go beyond. So,
Yeah.
because they beam radio signals into space, so that's a form of energy signal. So, any energy, it wouldn't be. I can't see it being confined by the Earth.
That's true, I suppose. Yeah. After all, I have had signals from the ISS, and that's outside the Earth's atmosphere.
Yeah, well, they've been talking recently about Voyager, because apparently is it 45 years old now? And recently they sent some new commands to it, because it was only intended to be used for 5 years. They didn't expect it to last this long. And they sent
Yeah.
some commands to it the other day to run some kind of diagnostic. And that's all done with radio waves. And apparently Voyager is right on the outskirts of our galaxy now. And it
Yeah.
takes 19 minutes for the signal to travel from us to Voyager, and then from Voyager back to us again.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So in 19 minutes, as a spirit, you could be at the edge of the galaxy.
And you think about it when you're talking to the spirit box and you're getting responses come through. Sometimes you can ask a question and it might be a minute later or minutes later that you get a response.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, the actual the frequency to get um, um the VHF signals from the ISS is online. I can't remember the exact frequency now, but you can actually pick it up on a handheld cheap bovine radio, but hold the radio flat and have the antenna rather than the antenna going vertical, have it horizontal, because when the ISS is passing your area, they're up there. Our normal communications is horizontal on land, but when you're trying to pick up a signal from the ISS, you need to have the antenna lying flat. I picked up a half a minute of communication from the ISS once. And I looked up online to see where actually the ISS was, and it just happened to be passing over Ireland at the time, and I turned on the radio with the frequency that I found online, and I picked up a 30 second signal.
Was it a voice signal you got, Sam, or was it like sounds data?
Oh no, it was communications.
It was actually voice.
Yes. What was the name of the astronaut? Buzz Aldrin, whatever you call him.
Buzz Aldrin.
Yes, I think it was him. His voice sounded an awful lot like I heard on interviews, and it just sounded exactly the same. So I says it must be. Do you know?
How do spirits use radio signals to speak through a spirit box? Absolutely no idea.
It seemed like they were.
Go on, Sam.
Sorry.
Go on.
It seemed like they were talking to a school. There is people from NASA and they bring in amateur radio people to school, so they could have an interview with the astronauts on the ISS.
All right.
Yeah, it does happen in the US a lot.
The thing with that question, Daniel, how do spirits use radio signals to speak through a spirit box? Is first going on the presumption that what you're communicating with through a spirit box is actually, in fact, a spirit. And I've come to the belief now that we've got absolutely no proof, one way or the other, you're actually speaking to a dead person on a spirit box.
Yeah, we think it's manipulation of the frequency and audio when it leaves the speaker.
Mm-hmm.
Some believe that it happens before it goes into the radio, but I don't think so. I think the manipulation happens on the output of the radio when the sound goes into the atmosphere. A lot of people say when you turn a spirit box on and you have the speaker on, you seem to have more results than going directly into a computer and going directly to live stream. It's not going into the atmosphere. Some people believe that it happens. The manipulation of that frequency and the audio happens in the atmosphere itself before it gets to your ears. It's just a theory, though.
Yeah. The thing is, Sam, they might not actually be using radio stations anyway. They could just directly be manipulating natural signals in the air. It would be interesting to go into a radio dead zone with a spirit box and see if you can actually get any kind of communication coming through.
I think the reason for the scan and the multiple frequencies is that in conversation we use multiple frequencies.
Yeah, that ain't what I'm arguing. What I'm saying is, people presume they are using the radio signals to manipulate. They may not necessarily be even using the radio signals. They could be manipulating energy directly and converting it into radio signals. So it would be interesting to go into an area where there is no artificial radio transmissions. So you couldn't pick up any radio station and see if you still get any kind of communication come through. Because then that would narrow down the fact that you don't actually need a radio station for a spirit box to work.
Yeah, that would be called direct radio voice, and that has, before scanned radio, that's what was basically happening. And my science teacher at the time, that's what he was doing.
Yeah.
And what he had done is I put together a radio at home, and when I took it in, he removed the tuner from me, so all I was getting was static. It's boring, and it's a pain in the ass, and I think there's frequencies missing to get a lot of communication, but actually it's kind of more solid because you cannot get a radio signal in. A lot of these people were using government frequencies that is illegal to use. You know, nobody can broadcast on them, so there's no signal going in,
Yeah.
coming out of these stations, and we're getting direct responses to questions. But it's extremely difficult, actually. It's really, really hard.
I could imagine me in a sensory deprivation tank floating around. Whee!
I'm trying to work out if Daniel's making you an offer in the chat, Julie.
Well, I was talking about the sensory deprivation in water. So we're going in that direction for now.
Yeah, I'm going to come out for a second. I need to go to the loo.
Okay.
Hurry up, because I was just thinking the same thing.
Bring
Right.
back your red microphone.
Yeah.
Good discussion. We've had a really good discussion tonight.
Well, we've just proved that interference is coming from Sam's.
Yeah. She must have a mobile phone or something there.
Yeah. As she cut the sound off, it stopped.
Yep. And I took my phone into the kitchen, so
I've moved my phone 3 times now, thinking it might be mine, and it obviously ain't.
no,
So
it was Sam.
It's going back where it normally is now.
Sam. We
Here
always
we go
have
again.
discussions.
Yeah, it would probably have to be something like a Faraday cave, because even in a mine, there's always the chance that radio signals could be getting in. You would have to do it in something like a Faraday cage where all radio signal is literally blocked.
Stranger Things has taught you how to make one, Julie. Yeah, but I'd need a SHIT ton of salt.
To make what?
Deprivation tank.
Actually, I don't think you would need that much. You could use the marine salt. I used to buy it when I had the marine tank. It's not that expensive. So you don't need to use that. It wouldn't be possible to. I wouldn't do it because I can't swim, and I wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't feel comfortable lying in water.
Yeah.
So I'd hate to do. I'd do it in a darkened room with the ping pong balls on and the headphones, but I wouldn't want to do it floating in water.
In her earlier video, she dropped. Hang on, I'm trying to catch up. It was in her earlier video she dropped. I had no idea. Something.
A Faraday cage is basically just like a mesh cage that basically blocks all radio signals. You can actually sit inside a Faraday cage in the middle of an electricity generator, and the electricity wouldn't touch you. It literally just blocks all electrical power from getting inside. Is about the most layman's term to describe it.
Yeah.
Somebody mentioned Faraday cage. Oh yes. The one thing about the Faraday cage is you kind of have to earth it though.
Yeah.
You know, we used them in the science lab to shield recorders and stuff, but they do have to be earthed. You know.
Mm-hmm.
You tried the biscuit tin once, Sam. Did that work as well as a Faraday cage? Or a pouch?
It worked with the PSP7, not 100%. It kind of cut out some. You know. Do you know when you have?
It can't work. A biscuit tin can't work 100% anyway, because normally you've got to have an hole in it somewhere for the cable to come out speakers, and so that's a way in for a signal. But
Yeah,
it cuts down a lot.
it cuts down a lot of signals coming in, but it actually cut down a lot of the dirty signals coming in as well, which can cause excess static. So it actually quietened down some radios.
Okay.
Do you know?
Yeah.
So you kind of can control. It's not a full Faraday cage. You're still getting signal, but you're getting less of it, and you're getting sort of a cleaner signal because a weaker staticky signal can't get through.
Just looking. Is this? Oh, this is the new one. Thank you for dropping that, Kim. It's your newest video, Sam, with your communication with Steve.
All right, right. Daniel asked, what's the point in putting a Faraday, putting a PSP7 in a Faraday cage? There's no point at all, because the actual static is actually artificially put into those particular radios. So you're not going to get, you're not going to get less static. You'll get less static from the radio signal, but you're still going to have the artificial static. And if you put it into a Faraday cage and not get any signal at all, you might as well just turn on a radio on a static station and just it's the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
We were using Faraday cages to do the recordings, the EVP recordings and stuff. And when we were doing direct radio voice way back years ago, we used Faraday 10s for that as well. But if you want to do a scan method and you need that audio, putting a Faraday cage, it kind of defeats the purpose of getting snippets of audio, because you're not going to get the snippets of audio as you're cutting out on the signal. But it's good for EVP, if you wanted to use it for EVP and stuff like that.
Yep. Hello, Tara. Sam, do you have a phone close by?
I do, actually.
It's Sam beeping.
Sorry.
There we go. Any other questions?
Take off the antenna like they did in Ghost Adventures. That doesn't really make much difference, believe it or not.
Somebody's asking about natural EVP.
What do you mean by natural EVP?
EVPs from a recorder and that. A lot of people copy what other ghost hunters and that do and get a recorder and that. You kind of need a background audio support to get your EVP. That might be the hiss of the recorder itself, and kind of, some of those older low quality recorders, some of those cassette recorders and stuff, or put a little bit of static from a radio in the environment you're recording in. Then you have some sort of audio for that EVP to stick to.
Mm-hmm. See, but I'll disagree with that, Sam, because I think you should do an EVP in as silent an environment and as soundless environment as possible, because the best EVPs do not need static to come through.
But if spirits use audio to speak to us, or use a manipulation of frequency, you're going to need frequency in the first place.
You're presuming they're manipulating frequencies of an existing frequency.
I'm only going on. I'm going on research from way back from Annabella Cardoso and that.
Yeah. See, I'd prefer to for me, a more convincing EVP would come through from a totally silent environment rather than one where there was static and then you're introducing oral pareidolia into the mix then.
You can when you put it through the software and then break it down, then you're able to pick out the EVP. You know.
Yeah.
Do you know? I'm going on. I'm going on the older research that was done on EVPs and stuff like that. I don't know if you. I don't think you can get an EVP from a say say one of these powerful studio recorders
Mhm.
without a little bit of something that they can use to create that EVP. Do you know?
Yeah. I honestly do not think that they need an existing source to do it. But that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
I think, like they can manipulate to make themselves appear, if they can, if they can manipulate their surroundings to create light energy, they should be more than capable of manipulating their surroundings to manipulate audio energy, frequency itself.
I was just looking up your question, Daniel. It says here a disembodied voice is a voice or a noise that lacks an explainable source, whereas an electronic voice phenomena are
Yeah,
sounds found on
yeah,
electronic recordings.
yeah. A
Yeah.
disembodied voice is just that it's got no body or source. It can literally appear in the air in a room, whereas an EVP has to appear as part of an electronic recording.
Yeah, and a EVP is usually not real time. It's when you play it back. It's not, you don't hear it in
Yeah,
real time. It's recorded and you hear it on playback. Disembodied voice, you hear it with your own ears.
yeah, and
Yeah, like when you hear someone
yeah,
talk.
but
Yeah,
the main distinction there is actually the disembodied part of it. There is no source, no apparent source for the actual voice, whereas an EVP it is actually part of an electronic recording. That is
yeah.
that's the significant difference.
I have to admit, Sky, I've only read part of the Bible, not the whole thing. Religion is not my strong point. She says, but even God needed a tabernacle and an ark to speak with Aaron.
I'm not from it. I grew up in a very religious background and that, but as much as I told my parents I did read the Bible, I
You
kind of
didn't,
didn't.
yeah.
There wasn't any pictures to look at. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Be careful how you word that, son.
I got, a couple of books in, and then I went, bugger it, and I flipped to the end. I have to admit.
I've read a lot of the. I haven't read it all, but I have read a lot of the Old Testament because I do find the Old Testament a lot more entertaining than the New Testament. I've got to be honest.
Hmm.
But I've only ever read the Bible as a form of entertainment, not as a form of belief.
The Ark of the Covenant, she says. Aaron was the high priest, the only one to be allowed near the seat of God. Well, there you go. That says it all.
Who was Aaron?
Aaron was the high priest, the only one to be allowed near the seat of God.
I thought it was an island in Scotland.
The Isle of Arran. Oh, yeah, they named the Isle after him, didn't they? But it was spelt differently, wasn't it? Isn't the
Yeah,
Isle of Arran Aron?
An, I think it is.
An. Oh, that's right, yeah.
Aaron, I think it is.
ARAN, yeah.
Yeah, we've got Iron Islands here too.
No, no labelling. My beliefs are all over the place.
Isle of Skye.
I saw Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Good point.
Good on you, Seago.
Yeah, good on you.
See, I've got no problem with people's religious beliefs. People can believe what they want.
Yeah.
The only thing I do say is keep your religion and your paranormal separate, hard as it is,
Mhm.
because like religion and politics, religion and paranormal do not belong together.
Sweet dreams, Jazz.
Have a
A
good
lot of
night,
people,
Jazz.
a lot of people bring faith into the paranormal.
Hmm.
Whether they say they don't do or not. They have the candles and they're calling out the spirits and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know, there's actually very few that are kind of technical, won't label the spirits, and just basically film the equipment. There's no fancy, objects, statues, or candles or anything like that. It's just basically the technology kind of thing. There's very, very few. And I kind of gone from the candles and calling out the spirits to just no labels, no candles,
Hmm.
no calling out the spirits or anything like that. Just getting the information, what I need to get. There's very few people actually like that.
Why do spirits haunt cemeteries? Don't think they do.
No, Daniel. In a word, Daniel says, "Is a Ouija board really different from a spirit box or a K2?" In a word, no. Exactly
No,
the same thing.
they're all communication tools. They just look different. Hope you're
I
good,
am Kat.
MCAT.
Do you know Amazon still haven't sent me a notice to say when my delivery's coming today? Which means they're going to be really late. They ain't even out for delivery yet.
Really?
Yeah. I've normally had a notification by about 11 o'clock at the latest to say that your delivery will be blah blah blah. I ain't even left the depot yet.
They need to get their finger out. I wonder
So
if it's with all the business over there.
it could be, but you'd have thought they'd have been trying to get everything out, considering they're closing on Monday.
Yeah, true.
So it's any time up to 10 o'clock that can deliver here. I don't know what they do in Australia, but it's any time up to 10 p.m. here.
We don't have any post on weekends.
No, I mean Amazon.
Oh, I have no idea.
Yeah, Amazon deliver up until 10 p.m. on a night here, so it probably be 10 o'clock tonight. I'll get the cable.
What do you think of stone tape theory?
I think it's actually a phenomenon. I think it's a valid, and to be honest with you, I think he's probably responsible for 99% of reported hauntings.
I agree with that one actually. Yeah.
I agree with that. Night sky. Give your dad a hug.
Night sky.
Yeah, we have experienced stone tape theory, and we mentioned it before.
Yep.
Buildings that have been taken from their site in
Yeah.
America, put on pallets, brick by brick, and reconstructed in a historic park, and the activity that happened.
4,000 miles away.
And it was quarantined for 2 years on pallets, all these bricks, and all numbered and put together back together like a jigsaw
Mm-hmm.
in a different country. And they were getting footsteps running up and down the stairs of
Yeah.
children and stuff when it was put
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
like It's like a story that my dad told me about when he was really little, and he said he went and visited family, and him and other kids were sleeping on the lounge room floor, and he still swears he saw a figure of a woman appear, and she kind of looked at all of them, and then she walked through the wall, and apparently there used to be a door there, but they
Mhm.
covered the door up, and that's
Yeah,
where she was walking through.
yeah.
Mm,
And where they were lying is probably where her kids used to sleep in the house at the time. So that was what she was looking at. She
could
wasn't looking
very
at your dad and them lot. She was probably looking at her own family at the, at the
Yep,
time.
exactly.
Because if you look into the vast majority of hauntings, they're not intelligent or interactive. They are literally described as like watching a movie sort of thing, where a certain thing happens and there's no interaction between the viewer and viewee.
Mm,
And
like a
that is what is classed as a residual haunting, which in my opinion is actually a direct result of stone tape theory. But that is just my opinion.
yeah, like movies playing over and over.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I think the reason why they're not constantly playing over and over, I think there's probably some kind of link there where the conditions of the area have to be right for it to happen. Be it barometric pressure or a certain amount of humidity or what, but so it
Yeah.
needs a certain amount of trigger conditions to trigger the replay.
Ley lines.
Yeah, ley lines, I believe in. Stonehenge and an awful lot of monoliths built all over Europe literally lie directly on ley lines. Stonehenge lies on probably the longest one in the country, I think. But if you go with something like dowsing rods and you go near ley lines, you will know. You'll see. There is definitely some for natural magnetic energy. Call it what you like. There is definitely something to ley lines.
I'm gonna try that because I know that Monte Cristo, the haunted house in Junee, which is not far from me, it actually sits on ley lines. They
Mm-hmm.
cross over in the front yard of
An
the house.
intersection, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll try that next time I'm
Yeah,
there.
the pyramid. Yeah, the pyramids lie on ley lines.
Hmm.
But if you're going to ley lines with dowsing rods, you'll be surprised how they react. Absolutely amazing.
There we go. Sam's done a lot of ITC. I just retracted the message. Do storms interfere with the communication between the spirit world? Does it amp it up?
It's funny because if you think about it, a lot of horror movies, when they do ghosty things, they always set them in the middle of a thunderstorm.
Hmm.
Personally, I can't say I've ever actually tested the theory. Sam would probably be your best one for this because she does them all the
Yeah.
most. So
No, I haven't discovered a link in weather conditions and people say, moon phases and stuff like that. I haven't seen any evidence that those conditions affect it. All I do know is I get better results at night time than I do during the day, and possibly because there's
radio
less yeah, there's less frequency pollution during the nighttime than daytime.
quiet. Hang on, excuse me a minute.
You're right.
Be quiet, silly girl. Sorry, somebody had the cheek to walk past the house.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah.
Bloody buggers.
They stopped for a chat by the front door, and Coco could see them through the glass.
Coco wanted the shoes on their feet
No,
and
Coco
maybe their
doesn't.
ankles.
I don't know why it does it, Julie, because if I opened the door and let him in, I'd run off Nide. The little one, on the other hand, would probably, show him around to see where all the valuables are.
Yeah, probably.
The
Here,
question there:
take
do
this one.
trigger objects really work? Do you see that question?
Yeah.
I do believe that there's like certain. I've seen ones where things move, and I also believe that there are certain objects that attract a specific spirit, for want of a better word, or whatever. And I'm one, I do often wonder is maybe it's something that they had a strong emotional attachment to in life if they are a dead person.
Yep. Have you had any experience with trigger objects moving or anything, Sam?
Not specifically moving, but I do have a lot of old objects and stuff.
Yeah.
Do you know? And I do have activity here at home, but this is a new build. It was never lived in before and stuff.
Mhm.
So maybe I'm jumping to conclusions that the objects and the old things and the old equipment and that possibly had some sort of energy, residual energy attached to them in some sort of way. Do you know?
Mm.
Oh, we went back way back years ago. We had the dolls and stuff like that. Do you know? I don't specifically believe in haunted dolls, but there's possibly energy to some of them, maybe that's attached to it. A lot of people get strange feelings in charity shops where a lot of stuff came from other people's houses and stuff like that. You get a kind of a strange feeling in a charity shop than a shop that sells new things. If you can
Mm.
pick up energy, I can pick
Yeah,
up energy in different houses and
yeah,
stuff. I can't fully explain it, but you get a different feeling in different locations, and I get kind of weird sort of
hmm,
a mixture of energy in secondhand stores. You know.
yeah,
Yeah, that's one of the weirdest places to be, I think, because there's so
Mm.
much energy, probably from because these were people's, belongings.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
when it
And
comes to
it's because if you think about it, you go in a normal house and everything belongs to the person who lives there. You go
Yep.
into a second-hand shop and you're going into an environment where everything in there belongs to hundreds of different people. And I think that's where you pick it up. Daniel's just asked the question I always hate people asking. Are you going to ask it?
Let me look. Do you have opinions about the Warrens?
Yeah. I
oh yeah,
believe,
Go, Brett.
I personally believe they were the original fakers for financial gain. And I'll leave it at that. Go on, your two's turns. Come on, spit it out.
yeah. I'm thinking about all the stuff that they have in their basement and stuff, and the Raggedy Ann doll and stuff like that. There's a very elaborate story to that, and it's really really good and that. But I've never ever actually seen any physical evidence of it.
The,
And
the, the,
this
the story of Annabelle, Sam, that the original owner tells, and the story that the Warrens tell are poles apart. Put it that way.
and it makes it even worse when the nephew of the Warrens brings this doll to Zach Bacon's, and he's taking it out of a suitcase with a pair of gardening gloves. And there's this fear generated around it. Oh, don't touch the doll, and all this kind of stuff. And Zach is propelled to touch it and stuff like that. I'm thinking, this is bullshit.
Mm.
So
See,
if that's bullshit, what else is bullshit? You know what I mean?
yeah, I always had a lot of respect for them, and I kind of looked up to them a little, back in my early days. As things have gone on and I've delved more into the world of the Warrens and the paranormal, I have a lot of questions, especially recently, because I don't know if anyone saw it, but there was a specific YouTube group who do a lot of paranormal stuff now. They've broken into that. And the Warrens' son in law let them into the museum for a few hours to investigate. And they say that nobody else has been allowed to investigate or anything. Um, and they were also allowed to have the Annabelle doll in its case for half a night at a different location without him being there. So
Is this Ghost Adventures?
no, it's not Ghost Adventures. It's I'm trying to think of their name. I think they're called Overnight or something like that. It's TFIL, their spin-off channel.
Yeah.
They have a lot to do with Sam and Colby and all them.
Yeah,
Um,
they generated this huge myth around that doll and all the stupidity about keeping it behind glass and having to have it blessed every week, and yet now it's being carried around to these different TV events in a normal suitcase and stuck on display and stuff. It just reeks of commercialism.
mm,
Yeah. The haunted collector, John Zappas, is actually part of the family. He's a nephew as well. And he actually has a big, massive building at the back of his house with supposedly haunted objects. And he seems to be more down to earth kind of thing, even though I can be a little bit iffy about them putting mirrors on top of glass cases with dolls and stuff like that. But I still was fascinated. I was so fascinated that I have dolls in cases myself. I've replicas of Robert the doll and Annabella the doll and all that kind of thing. I was always fascinated. But John Zappa's was more sort of down to earth than a lot of them, and he was very open about what he could talk about on TV shows and what he couldn't, and because he on YouTube or anywhere else he could be more open and do things the way he wanted to do them rather than the way TV shows work. He
Yeah.
couldn't be overly religious. He's got a faith, he's got a religion, and he couldn't say the prayers that he wanted to say on TV, kind of thing. And something in me questions if it is 100% completely fake and for attention seeking. That is a long way to go to fake stuff. Having a big massive building full of stuff
mm,
when it's not. It's not hugely popular. It's a private thing in his own garden. Now, there was rumors, I don't know if it's true or not, that they were going to combine John Zappa's stuff and the Warren stuff and put them in a city or in town for a public sort of venue, if you know what I
Well,
mean.
the Warrens' place is run as a public venue.
Yeah, but it's in a cul-de-sac in the middle, in a very
Yeah, but
quiet.
it has thousands of videos of visits a week. So it's not just the odd person turning up there. They're there constantly.
Yeah,
mm.
I think there was issues with neighbours and stuff like that. Extra traffic and stuff like that. They were going to they were going to put them in a venue where everybody can go and nobody's going to be interrupting the neighbourhood and stuff like that. I don't know if it ever went ahead or are they still planning to do that. I don't know. You know.
See, I would like to see two videos side by side, one of someone going into the Warren Museum or Zach Bacon's museum and going on a tour where they turn around and say, this is the Annabelle doll, this is what's happened, this is the, whatever else. They show these things and tell them the backstories and see the reactions of the people, whether anything happened. Then get someone else to come in and walk through the museum and don't tell them anything about anything in there. Just don't
Yeah.
touch anything. Walk
Yeah.
through, bring them out. Okay, anything happened? How did you feel? Because I
Yeah.
can guarantee that would be two different reactions.
Yeah. Well, the Warrens made claims that people actually died after interacting with the Annabelle doll. And that
Mm.
to me tells you the levels those people were prepared to stoop to generate this kind of myth around this doll. And it was all done for financial gain. You know, they charge people to go and view this doll and then start making stories like that up of people dying in motorcycle accidents and all kind of stuff. That to me is a commercial angle, plain and simple.
Well, many people have died on motorcycle accidents coming back from Walmart. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly, Sam. Exactly. You know,
You
and
know?
they specifically stated that that guy died after taunting or making sarky comments about the doll, and there are other people who have had very negative things happen to him after doing something horrible to Annabelle. It is all commercial bullshit, just like East Drive.
Good night, Kim.
No,
There
kid.
was a there was another. Oh no, this was, I think this was about Robert. Robert the doll. You know, he gets mail every
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
You know, sorry I disrespected you and all the rest of it. And there's this woman. She slipped on the stairs on a boat. She lost her job, she lost her pet or whatever. There was a whole list of it and that, and there was this guy reacting to him, and he says, "You know something? This woman is the most clumsiest person I've ever heard of. All the accidents she's got involved in." But there's this psychological thing. When you go into if you go into, say, the haunted museum belonged to Zach Bacon's, there's a possibility. I've never been there, but there's a possibility that the staff is already putting your mind in fear mode.
Well,
Yep.
the fact you're even going there, you're putting your own mind into that kind of mindset anyway.
Yeah,
You know, you're
you know.
taking yourself to a paranormal museum. You are expecting paranormal before you even step foot in the place.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's people that have collapsed in these places and that, and it could be a psychological thing where they're getting themselves worked up.
Yeah, but
You
you
know.
know what you were saying, just Sam, about that woman who slipped on a boat and did this and did that and did the other. You've got to do is take these people in context as well. Take that creepy thing off the screen. You know, because a lot of these things probably happened years apart, but they suddenly lump them all into one little thing, all blamed on whatever it is, and make it sound like they all happened within like 24 hours, when in reality, 9 times out of 10, they could have happened over a period of 10 years.
That'd
Yeah,
be like that'd be like me turning around and saying, if you don't say good night to this doll every time we live stream, anything bad that happens this week is going to be because you didn't say good night.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And that's exactly what it is, Julie.
It's all up in here. Because the more
yeah.
stories they have to tell, the more people that come in to see the doll.
Yeah, it's commercialism at its best.
Yep.
It's still sort of fascinating for a lot of people. You know what I mean? And that's why people have some of these replicas and stuff. I have Robert the doll there looking down at me at the moment in a rocking chair, and I think it's cool. Whether I believe the story is real or not, I I put a lot of questions in that, but people are still fascinated, even if they do have questions. But a lot of people won't think for themselves at the same time. They will believe everything that they're being told, and that's what brings in that kind of those kind of people. Most of those people are, go in there because they believe what they've been told. You know, rather than going in on as a pure and utter skeptic kind of thing.
Yeah. I could pull out a totally random object here, sit on the channel for the next month, make up all sorts of stories about it, and be sitting on the news on Good Morning Britain next month talking about how me demonic rampant rabbit is killing people, and that's how it works. Oh, Sam's looking for a demonic rampant rabbit now.
See you, Jack. Thanks for coming in. Have a good
There,
day.
there's my wee Robert, and I bought a little chair for him.
Yuck. They should all be
And
burned.
I think
you
it's
get,
cute.
yeah, you get a postcard as well of a real picture of the doll.
Wonder
The
if we
real.
got permission to take that photo.
That does it come with a stamp so you can send it back with an apology to Robert?
Hold on a second.
For not getting permission for the photo.
Yeah.
Well, it comes from the museum itself, so I presume that they did ask.
That's what the postcard's for, so you can write back to him and apologise to him
Oh yeah,
for
yeah.
for owning a fake.
But it does have a kind of a very weird sort of a history, True or otherwise, I don't know. Is he still visible? He is.
Yeah. But this is the beauty of haunted objects. You can claim anything is haunted. You can make up whatever stories you want to, and there is absolutely no way anybody can refute you one way or the other.
Yeah.
Keys, but you might also be helping yourself to open to possible valid phenomena by pre-suggestion and knowing it's a paranormal museum. I'd just be interested in going through that museum and saying, don't tell me anything about anything. And then at the end of it, you say, okay, well, this is what I felt in this room, felt that in that room, and then seeing what their stories were about those rooms.
Yeah.
Do you ever talk about controversial channels? Well,
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
sometimes, even though we shouldn't.
Yeah, I've a number of videos. You have to tread very carefully in those situations, though.
Normally, it's just in a humorous way.
The link for
It's normal.
Sam's channel is pinned to the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, check out Fozzie Bear. It's very entertaining in a very sad situation.
I love that Muppet video. I thought it was class.
Oh, it was funny. I
I
loved
still
it.
feel sorry for him. I did do a video on both of, that guy and the person he had fallen out with and that. And I feel sorry for both of them in some sort of way. It's very, losing a friend over a silly, a silly app and that. And the both of them are hurt and stuff like that. And it is sad. But I couldn't resist taking the piss then afterwards with the Fozzie Bear thing.
It was good. The thing is, Keys, you are always going to have people who make things up, be it in the paranormal or anything else, because there are people out there who, for various reasons, they may be lonely, they may have a condition where they're just a compulsive attention seeker, and they need that or money, yeah, and they need that attention. So it's not. I know we laugh about it in terms of the paranormal, but it goes on in all areas of life.
Yeah.
And it's just something you got to laugh about and move on from.
Yeah, if you focus, if you have a channel focusing specifically on controversial channels and stuff like that, you end up with the mindset that the paranormal on YouTube is a complete and utter dumpster fire, which it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
But you need to take your mind off that, otherwise you're just going to you're surrounding yourself with sort of negative stuff.
Yeah.
Mm.
I've always gone with the philosophy, laugh about everything, find everything funny. And it has been inappropriate at times, but that's just the way I am.
Yeah. So that's why I done the Fozzie Bear video. Do you know?
Yeah. That's exactly what it is, Seago. It comes down to morals, or lack of, in the case of some people. Oh, and the good news is my delivery is going to be between 1:30 and 4:30. It's just told me.
Oh, good. You
So
finally got time.
we will be getting the camera up at some point today for a test.
If I had my sound bites plugged in, I would have went for local Paul. I don't give a fuck, but thanks for letting me know. It's a pity it's not working today because, but
when you do these kind of podcasts where you're talking about a specific subject, it can come across that there's a lot of negatives and a lot of downers.
Yeah.
But you could say that about anything. You could go onto the I don't know, the own crafting community on YouTube, and I'll guarantee you it is exactly the same there. You get negative in everything. It all comes down to how you approach it, and if you can look at it, say your piece on it, then laugh it off and move on. There's nothing wrong with that, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. You have drama channels, and then you have drama channels that have a personal gripe with somebody, and that. Yeah. I know one guy, he's an old guy and that, and he has one particular channel that he has a gripe with. And every single time he does a video on them.
He has more than one channel, sir.
Right. and that ends up turning into harassment after a while, Not that he cares, probably. Mm-hmm. Do you know?
But the thing is, if you go onto YouTube and the most popular channels on YouTube in general, not just the paranormal, are the drama channels for the particular topic they're on about.
Oh yeah, Deaf Noodles is a big thing nowadays. Actually,
it's just the way modern society is. People find bad things entertaining, and that's just a fact of life today, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
No, Trisha Paytas is kind of trending because she just had a baby.
Oh yeah,
I don't give a shit. To be
Barbie,
honest with you,
Malibu Barbie, she named it, didn't she? I'm sure it was Malibu Barbie.
I'm so glad I don't watch the crap you.
I don't care.
It popped up in my TikTok feed. I don't even watch her because it was trending. It came.
I've never even heard of her, let alone watch her.
Oh, she goes back to like Vine days. She was a partner of a Viner or something like that. That's all I know.
Yeah, I mean, like, she was on the H3 podcast as a co-host for Frenemies and that, and that was the most viewed series that H3 have done, even though it ended up in a disaster, where she lost it and she fell out with Ethan right on stage, right in the live, arguing over finances and stuff like that, which should have been kept offline, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But that was the reason why people loved Frenemies. I absolutely hated Frenemies.
Well,
I like the stuff that they do now. And a lot of people are attracted to it because Ethan falls out with everybody. But lately he's been pulling that back and trying to make friends with people. Squashing the beef and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, it's things like, you got things like Big Brother and the Kardashians and all them kind of things. People don't watch them because they're actually genuinely interested in the lives of these people or whatever. they're watching in the hopes that something horrible is going to happen to them, and it gives them something to talk about. Big Brother and I'm a Celebrity and perfect examples.
Oh
People
yeah,
watch it because they want to see people eating kangaroos' testicles and eyeballs. They don't watch it because they're interested in the people in general. They just want to see people dealing with nasty situations. And that's why, the Kardashians, all that kind of stuff, that's why it's all successful. Because people have got a natural tendency to enjoy other people in situations worse off than what they are. It's an escape.
I'll be
yeah.
right back.
Big Brother is actually the tasks and everything they do has a goal of making people fall out with other people.
Yeah,
Do you know?
yeah. It's negativity at its best. But
Oh,
if
oh,
you bring that back to the paranormal, Sam, right, and a lot, and we've got this popular belief that a lot of paranormal stuff is strongly connected to energy. If you've got a planet full of people generating all this negative energy, what sort of effect is it going to have on the paranormal long term?
yeah,
Are we going to start getting an increase in people claiming there's demons and there's nasty entities wandering around doing this, that, and the other? They could be as a direct response of all this negativity that everybody currently is thriving on.
yeah. For me, I try to do my own thing, and that's where my ITC channel kind of comes in, where it's just ITC, and then on my main channel, an idea comes into my head, and I do it, and lately I have noticed that I had put out a few, videos on Huff and that, and it actually brought my mood down. And actually,
Hmm.
did I do it for views? No, I didn't actually, because actually the people that are on my channel
It's
come
to get
over
it.
to my channel
It's
to
to
get
get it
away
off
from
your.
it.
It's to get it off your chest a lot of the time, isn't it?
It is, yeah, it is, and actually, putting a humorous spin on it is me. When I start doing humorous kind of stuff, it's me trying to fight, me not feeling so good, if you know
Yeah.
what I mean.
But
You
if,
know?
if what I was saying just about all this negativity having an impact on the paranormal, this time next year you're going to be doing videos that start with "And what demon are we going to talk to today?" Because
Oh God.
that's what it's going to
Yeah.
end. If it is to the point where people generating negative energy is meaning all we're getting is negative entities, all you're going to have 12 months, 5 years down the line is all these negative entities to deal with. So all your ITCs are going to be "What demon are we going to talk to today?"
Yeah. Um.
So you got that to look forward to, Sam.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm going back to the sort of the communications I got a couple of days ago, and the person that communicated, he was saying, about his friend, we're trying to prove that it's not all demons. And that is kind of different in the paranormal, because the advertisement of paranormal is negative. It's creepy graveyards and skulls and shit,
Hmm.
which I think it's far from it.
Yeah, but you know, YouTube paranormal, a lot of it's very narrow, because if you look at the paranormal UFO community, it's a lot smaller than the paranormal ghost community on YouTube. Because on YouTube, the majority of people, you say the word paranormal to the majority of people on um, YouTube, and they will straight away think ghosts and ghost hunting. They never think of Bigfoot. They never think of you know UFOs. They never think of mysterious disappearances, the Bermuda Triangle, they all immediately jump to ghost hunting.
Yeah.
Are demons overrated? They are, because personally I don't think they exist.
Not in a conventional sense, anyway. Not what they tell us demons are.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, I had an attack years ago, and I cannot prove that it's a demon, but I can prove that it was very, very bad. The last thing I wanted to do was grab a camera and video it.
Exactly.
You know, I think it's one of these trending words associated with the paranormal. Just like when you see a title of a video, you know, there's a demon phase, there's a poltergeist trending word that people use, and then you'll see a lot of channels copying each other, and they want to put poltergeist in it because that's a trending word. It's all about trends on YouTube. What works?
Yeah.
You know, these haunted boxes. What do you call them? Dybbuk boxes. You had that phase. Everybody jumped on the bandwagon. Haunted dolls. Everybody jumped on the bandwagon. And then you go to certain channels who use demons in capital letters as a trending word, and it's view harvesting. They know the system.
Well, Sam, some people use it as part of their channel title as the harvesting system. Let's be honest here.
Oh yes.
You know, but talking about poltergeist, I have actually had personal experience of a poltergeist. It is what got me into the paranormal in the first place. And I can tell you, every single one of those videos that a couple of years back when poltergeist was the in thing, not a single one of them was accurate or anywhere near the truth of what's involved in a paranormal and in a poltergeist encounter whatsoever.
I'm looking for an answer to a joke here. What did one Dybbuk box say to the other? I'm intrigued what the answer might be.
We give up.
Come on, Daniel. Spill it out. He's leaving us hanging here.
Yeah.
I really want to know now.
I did it too. I don't get that.
I don't get that either.
You're going to have to put an explanation for that joke.
Yeah, I'm lost there too, unfortunately.
Well, Seago gets it. One of you can explain it.
Actually, someone said to me the other day, they mentioned that stream that we did on Brett's channel, you know, where we made up the Dybbuk box things and all that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was a good stream.
The first Dybbuk boxes is one Dybbuk box. What did one Dybbuk box say to the other?
Like I did it too. That's not funny. That's a dad joke.
That's a dad joke.
He did try, though.
You tried. Most of the jokes I have to tell aren't appropriate for YouTube.
It's a very bad joke.
Myself and Rachel are a bit like them two guys in the Muppet Show up in the...
Here's one for you then, and I bet you neither of you will know the answer. How do you confuse an idiot?
It's got to do with thinking about it, isn't it?
And Sam's seriously considering it. Look.
I'm a bit lost.
That's the whole point, Sam. When you ask the question, how do I confuse an idiot, and then somebody sits there really thinking about it, what are you? What are you? You're confused.
Oh fuck. Mm, I get it.
What did the
Myself,
what did the dad say to the son when they drove past the cemetery?
Go on.
That's the dead center of town.
Oh God.
a friend of mine keeps coming up with that. Passing cemeteries. Yes. Myself and Rachel are like the two guys in the viewing box in the Muppet Show when we're
Yep.
watching something
Do you
like
know I can never remember what those two are called?
I don't know for the life of me.
when we're watching Ghost Adventures, especially when they come up with, there's poltergeist activity, and we go gobshite activity. Ah.
The thing is with like this just proves how out of touch a lot of channels are with what they actually put out there, because a poltergeist is actually connected to a person, not an actual place. So they can't go to a paranormal house, a poltergeist house, because there's no such thing. There's no such thing as a poltergeist location. The poltergeist follows the person; it doesn't stick to the house.
Mm.
And I know that from personal experience.
I think a lot of channels, the way they do things is
Definitely.
crafted around their viewers and what the viewers want, rather than seriously thinking for themselves.
Yeah.
A lot of people out there, they don't think for themselves. They think they do, but they're actually copying everybody else.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
professional paranormal research there has got it down to a T, and that's exactly what I do. I don't do trends, I do my own thing. If people view, great. If they don't, then who cares, lol. And that is what everybody should, that is the attitude everybody who does paranormal on YouTube, genuine paranormal on YouTube, should be like.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, Statler and Waldorf, I could never remember what they're called.
Yeah.
They're not the most memorable of names, are they? Let's be honest.
No, they're
No,
not.
they didn't. They could have went Bill and Fred or
Yeah.
Ben and Jerry. Something simple.
Hmm. It says people have very strong opinions on what poltergeists are. They are a very specific type of entity, Daniel, believe me. They're well documented and well studied, and they are not connected to a property. I can tell you that with 100% certainty, and there's very few things in the paranormal that have got any certainty connected to them. But that is definitely one. They are linked to a person, not a property or an area. You can have ghosts that do similar things to poltergeists, but if you ever unluckily enough to experience poltergeist activity, you'll know. Believe me, you'll know.
Yeah.
You can always tell when somebody's creating paranormal um, footage as well, because when you ask them about it, you don't even have to call them out. You just have to question something that's happened, and they get very, very um, angry and
Hmm.
protective, I will say.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you can visit properties where there are things going on there, like Seago just said there, with things disappearing, things being thrown around and stuff, but they are not poltergeists. That is just a very active haunting. Poltergeists are a very specific type of thing, and one of their defining attributes is the fact that they are linked to a person. It's not necessarily a trouble person like somebody just put Daniel, but I also personally believe that the person themselves are actually the energy source for it, not necessarily the actual controller of what goes on, but they are most definitely the energy source for it. They're
So
not.
is that true?
They're not poltergeists, Daniel. They're a different type of. People put them out as poltergeists because they like to link it to the film. You know, because as soon as you say the word poltergeist, everybody thinks of Step Into the Light, Caroline. That film. What you're witnessing there is an entity that is capable of manipulating physical objects. A poltergeist centralizes round a person. They focus their attention on a person. If that person is not in that location, it will not happen. I actually experienced it where I went to other houses and other buildings and still experienced it centered on me, no one else. And that is
Yeah.
what defines a poltergeist.
If you see a video of somebody going to a location, say an abandoned location, and all hell's breaking loose and things are flying everywhere, I'd be questioning them about it.
You know, don't get me wrong, I believe it can happen. You know, I believe there are things out there strong enough to manipulate physical objects,
Yeah.
without a doubt. But, you know, to label them as a poltergeist is actually inaccurate.
Yeah, Daniel's question there about abandoned properties and stuff. I think more activity happens in houses where there's people, but not everybody can go to houses where there's other people. They're
Yeah,
private houses, you
yeah.
know, and it's easier to go to an abandoned property where there's no people in it.
Hmm.
A clean environment in the line that there's no other people there,
Yeah.
kind of thing. And people are intrigued by abandoned properties as well. They like the explore part of that as well. But I would probably think that more hauntings happens in other people's houses than
Hmm.
in specific abandoned places.
Well, if you think about it, Sam, the vast majority of housing, you know, over here, probably in Australia, have got years and years and years of history behind them. You know, this house I live in is over 100 years old, well over 100 years old. There is countless different people lived in this house before me. You know, you do not know what energy they've imprinted on the place.
Yeah,
Again, Daniel, you've got to be careful with it. You know, with these so-called famous haunted houses. Amateurville, perfect example. You know, with the movie, they claimed this, that, and the other happened. It was only was they called the Lutz family, I believe.
Yes.
It's only the Lutz family who've actually made any kind of claims of paranormal activity going on in their house. The Defoes before them, obviously, they were subject to the brutal murders, which was interfamily. You know, but only the Lutz claim that all that really horrible stuff went on in the house and the pig-like entity and stuff appearing. People have lived in that house now for 40, 50 years since, and not one of the residents who live there now or have lived there since have claimed any paranormal activity in that house whatsoever. So you've got to be very, very careful that there's not other motivations to these places.
yeah,
You know,
Sally House and Bel Air House, I've seen a lot of investigators go, like people that I would say were more on the legitimate end, but it's only stories. I've never seen anything
yeah,
significant
yeah,
happen in there.
yeah. Well,
oh,
East Drive is the perfect example of it. There is hundreds and hundreds of videos of that place on YouTube. I have not seen a single video in that place where anything other than what they've claimed has actually happened. You've never actually physically seen things. you've seen photos after the event, or you've heard them claim they've seen something, or claim they've heard something, or you could hear a knock or something, but you've never actually witnessed any type of the physical activity that goes on in that house that these groups claim. Not once.
Yeah, I actually done a video on the 30 Strife reaction to another video, and the person that made the other video called the black monk that's supposed to be haunting the house. He referred to him as Mister Nobody.
Yeah, well, that
And
was.
when I was
I've,
making the video, and I just burst out laughing. I lost it, you know.
I've got a funny feeling, Sam. It was actually PD who got that one through the radio. I think it was Proving Demons who actually got that one.
All right.
Mr. Nobody.
I thought it was just a joke.
No. Somebody did actually get the, and I'm 99% certain it was PD.
All right.
I saw his video at the Monk House with the marble.
I'll tell you something, Julie. I used to live near a pub back in the Midlands, and the pub is actually called the Crooked House, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can go in that pub, and they will give you a marble when you're in the pub because the house is tilted really badly to the left. If you put a marble on the table in the pub or on the windowsill, the marble looks like it's rolling uphill. But it's actually an optical illusion with how the pub was actually settled. And this is what can be happening with places like East Drive and stuff like that, where things look like things are happening one way when in effect they're actually happening another.
Mm.
Yeah.
And that pub in the Midlands, the Crooked House, is actually famous for the fact that things appear to be rolling uphill. And there's another place in America where it's a famous crossing where they say cars suddenly start rolling over the crossing. But it's actually been proven that the ground actually slopes down slightly, so it's gravity doing it.
Yeah, we've one here in a mountain called the Magic Road, and I actually drove on that road, and I done a video on it, but I didn't realise why the road was called the Magic Road until I got home and researched it. Apparently, it rolls uphill, sort of thing.
Yeah, and it's optical illusion, Sam, because your eyes tell you. They always tell you the ground is either flat or sloping down, when in effect it's sloping up, or vice versa.
Yeah.
But that pub in the Midlands is actually famous for things rolling uphill. I've got no problem with people doing the paranormal as entertainment, there you go, but I really wish they'd be upfront about it and state that it's for entertainment purposes rather than claiming everything's 100% genuine.
Yeah, me too.
Even if you nowadays, there's so many people doing it nowadays. So if you went out and you were genuine and all the rest of it, and you did get very, very strong evidence of paranormal activity, visually on the camera and that, you're going to have people that don't follow you, don't know what your personality is like, which is important, because if you're renowned for pulling a few stunts, though people aren't going to believe you. But even those people that see that video and never seen you before, they're still going to question it because there's so much manipulation out there, you know?
Yeah, and this is the problem now, Sam, and I've said this to a number of people. There is that much, and let's be honest, a lot of it isn't deliberate fakery. A lot of things that are put on YouTube, the people witnessing them genuinely convince themselves that's what happened or that's what they saw. When, other people can actually see that there's other explanations to what was on. So not everybody on YouTube is a deliberate faker. A lot of the stuff that ain't genuine is actually mistaken identity. There's no doubt about that. Will you stop flicking that bloody screen around? But if somebody now does get genuine information or proof, it's going to be really, really difficult to convince people now that that is actually genuine stuff. I think the only way now for something like that to actually be proven genuine is for, say, a ghost to materialize in the middle of a football match with 40,000 people watching. I
It's
think
that's
that's
still
the.
gonna.
But even then, it'll be questioned.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm giving you free advertising, Brett.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
You can shrink me back down now.
You sure?
Daniel
Yeah,
mentioned
the
about the
closest down.
Washoe Club. What I remembered about the Washoe Club, it was one of the favourite places of
You
Debbie
can make Sam big
Constantino,
now.
who was very good at actually pulling out EVPs. You know, had massive amount of equipment for studying EVPs. You know, it was a tragedy. You know that she still not around anymore.
I've noticed there's a lot of channels are disappearing lately. I don't know whether it's because it's summer over here and people are out enjoying themselves and stuff. But the output from the UK side of things has definitely gone down compared to how
Or
it used to be.
um, it's kind of the UK paranormal is steeped in politics, amongst channels and stuff like that.
I,
And
I,
it,
I, I, Sorry to interrupt, Sam. I don't know whether it's just that, Sam. I think it's quite telling that we're in financial straits at the moment. Worldwide, people haven't got the spare cash they used to have, and for donating and stuff like that. And I think it's quite telling that a lot of these big channels have disappeared once the money's dried up.
yeah, possibly, but there is actually a lot of people fed up because there's still drama going on,
Yeah,
you know, and it shouldn't really affect them, but it psychologically does
yeah,
because really what we should be doing is going out and doing our own thing and forgetting what is going on in the background. But it's never too far away, sort of thing. And that's one of the reasons why when I came onto YouTube first, I was subscribed to nearly every paranormal channel there is around me. And now I don't watch any of them, hardly.
hmm
There's very, very few that I watch now.
Yep.
Do you know?
I'll be honest with you, Sam. Apart from watching you, coming on Julie's and watching your videos, I don't think I'll watch any paranormal channels anymore.
Yeah.
You get to a point where you just don't want to be involved in it.
Well, to do your own content, you have to be in a bubble of your own kind of thing and do your own thing the way you want to do them, you know?
hmm
Yep.
And, focus on the paranormal rather than making money. If you want to make money, do other stuff. There's other stuff on YouTube easier to make money than making money off the paranormal because the paranormal is kind of a very, very tight niche kind of thing.
hmm
Do you know?
hmm
Yeah.
Do you know?
And I think a lot of people that come onto YouTube or are on YouTube too will flit around between channels and that. A lot of them are, okay, I'll come over here because you're going to help me grow to a certain point, and then they move on to
Yeah,
someone a bit bigger, and it's kind of like a growing game.
yeah. It's basically like being employed and
Yeah,
climbing the employment ladder. And
exactly.
it's exactly the same on YouTube. And it's not just it's YouTube wide.
Mm.
Talking about this, it makes it sound like it's really negative in the paranormal community, which in parts of it are. But there's a lot of good paranormal stuff out there, no
Oh,
doubt about
definitely.
it. But
And
it's
there
not
are
just
good people.
yeah, it's not just the paranormal; it's every aspect of YouTube. every
Yeah.
aspect.
I remember one time I seen this. It was a big channel, and they put out a small clip, and it was something to do with an orb, and a part of a clip of a live stream, and that, and it was back a couple of years ago, and they says, "Is this an orb, or do you think an insect?" And everybody, the very very tight community went, "Oh, that's a great capture," and all the rest of it. "Oh, that's an orb, that's a spirit," and all the rest of it. I looked at it and I just seen it the way it was just floating around a kind of in an air atmosphere like a dust would. I said, "That's dust." Well, it was lucky I was on my private account and not my main channel, because they ripped me to bits. Like, you know, I'm, you know, I couldn't have said a worse thing to them.
Mm-hmm.
Because they came at me with pitchforks, and the only thing that protected me is that I was on a private account, that I sometimes put out my opinion, and I sometimes purposely piss these people off because it's so flippin' funny.
The thing is, you get to the point where you get groupies, for want of a better word. Channels get groupies, and they will defend their favorite channel regardless. Even if the channel is proven, if it was proven that they blatantly fake something,
Oh
you
yeah,
will get these people who will still blindly defend them.
oh yeah, big time, yeah.
So you do have to be very, very careful what you say on somebody else's channel, because it can be like like dipping your toe in a pool full of piranha if you ain't careful.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Big
yeah.
time, big time.
Some of the communities are pure and utter toxic.
Oh
But
yeah.
if you're on a private account, it can be a lot of fun pissing them off.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know?
But I've always said to people when I've been doing things, if I say something and you think no, it was someone else, speak up and say so. I ain't
Yeah.
going to jump down your throat and insist what I thought it was is 100% right.
Yeah.
I've lost count of the amount of times I've put things out there and somebody else has messaged me later and gone, "Oh, that's such and such," in a comment, and I've gone back and looked at it and gone, "Yeah, you know what, you're right," and left the comment there. But you'll find a lot of people will actually delete the comment
Yeah.
rather than admitting that they made a mistake. Nobody's 100% infallible.
Oh, that's like, remember that video that I edited that time? I think it was at the church in Picton, actually, the little haunted town.
Oh, when you cut the guy off halfway through.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like that man just disappeared, and I was like, "Oh, that was me." I was
But
editing.
if something's proven to be wrong, there's no shame in actually admitting it. And if anything, I think it gives people more credibility.
Yeah,
There's been many things that I've done wrong, and I think very, very rarely pulled up on. Do you know? I think a lot of the time. No, I'm not. I'm not. I'm not specifically targeting all communities, but a lot of the communities are surrounded with yes people.
Yeah.
yeah, they
And
are.
that's the last thing I actually want. I'd like to hear other people's point of view, other possibilities. Do you know, that kind of way?
I'll tell you something, Sam. The amount of stuff I have learned going on channels and speaking to somebody, and I've said something, and they've said something else, and I've gone and researched it, has been unbelievable. I've probably learned more from talking to people on channels like that and having discussions without arguing than I have from reading books and doing my own, direct research.
Yeah.
See, Seagull says it happens in the music world as well.
Yeah.
It's every any community you go to, you will get it where you've got people who of all spectrums. So so I don't think the paranormal is negative, because it's not. It's got its negative elements, and unfortunately, they tend to get more airtime than everybody else. But there is a lot of bloody good stuff out there on YouTube. to do with the paranormal, but you do sometimes have to dig for it.
Oh, that reminds me when one of my sisters was I think she was only young, about 14 or maybe 15, and we lived in the middle of nowhere. And she loved singing, but she had a voice like you were strangling a cat.
Yeah,
And her friends and everyone, oh my god, you've got such a good voice. So this is back in the 80s, mind you. So she decided to get one of my other sisters to run away with her, and she was going to go and join Young Talent Time. She had it all figured out in the head that she was going to be the superstar. Oh my god!
I think throughout life I have found the people who I've had as long-term friends, and I'm talking about people who go right back to when I was a kid at school, have been the people who have been prepared to tell me the truth rather than tell me what I want to hear sometimes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'll tend to appreciate that in people.
I love that though, that you and me and Sam and other people can turn around and say, thank you for telling me that, and I'm going
Yeah,
to learn something from that instead
yeah,
of denying it and
yeah,
causing an issue.
yeah.
I got a comment a while back about an investigation, and the comment went something like this: I'm really disappointed I didn't see any ghosts tonight, but I appreciate you doing the video. And then I says, when was the last time you seen a ghost on video? He said, slapped ham. I went, fuck's sake. I thought that was funny.
But it is true, because you do get people who say things like that, and 99% of the time, if you turn around to them and go, "So when was the last time you saw that happen?" They can't give you an answer anyway. So
Yeah.
they're just totally funny comments, totally
Yep.
funny. I'll give you an example of one the other day on. It was nothing nasty on it. It was just funny. It was on the bird stream, and I was talking to a woman who I talked to a lot in Lincoln, and we were talking about how vicious grey squirrels are. And she starts telling me this story about her husband being attacked by one in the shed. And halfway through the story, she went, and it jumped on his head, and he looked like Davy Crockett. And then carried on telling the story and couldn't understand why everybody else in the live was in total hysterics. It was just the way it was just delivered so deadpan in the middle of the comments, and then carried on.
Yeah.
When these lives are going on, because it's live, people don't actually realize sometimes how it comes across the written word to other people.
Yeah. It's I found lately too with locations you go to, you might have filmed them a couple of years ago, and then you don't get any comments from that video for, you know you get them at the time you uploaded it, and then it kind of dies off, and then all of a sudden you'll get a comment and that, and you go to the comment, it says, oh, that used to be my grandparents' house, we've been just looking into
Yeah,
researching our family history, and I came
yeah.
across this video and stuff.
Hmm.
I got that with actually Cumber House and that, and it was very interesting, the information that was given back to me. So sometimes the comment section starts gathering more and more information from other people and that.
Well, I've got an email, and I've still got it in my inbox last year, and I think it was from Joanne B, if I remember right. I'll look after. And we were talking about cemeteries and graves and family history at the time, and I think it was on your channel, Julie. And
Yep.
she was talking about a guy who lived with her mother years ago, and she considered him like a dad or an uncle. And he died, and they'd moved him back to Ireland, and she didn't know where he was buried. And I said, and we were talking to her, and I gave her some websites to find out, where he was buried, and she actually found him. And she sent me an email saying, thank you and Julie and Sam, because I found my uncle and he's buried in such and such, blah, 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 blah. And we're going to visit him. And I've still got that email in my inbox.
Oh,
So, that's the effect a paranormal channel can have on somebody. We actually
Yeah.
helped to find somebody from years ago who died and she didn't know how to locate the grave.
I'm glad she found him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've still got that email in my inbox.
Wow. You know, it's actually recently my family on my dad's side, the O'Briens, they had come over from Ireland, the first of the O'Briens to come from Ireland to Australia. And the first thing they did apparently when they stepped off the boat in Melbourne was buy a pub. And
that sounds about right for the Irish.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
so they own the pub down there, and my dad was trying to chase up our family history, and he knew that they died and they were buried in the Melbourne cemetery, but it's huge.
Mhm.
And I actually found them.
Yeah.
I know exactly where they're buried, so we're going to go and see them one day soon.
Yeah.
But Dad had been looking for years and
Yeah.
didn't know how to find them. You know,
Yeah.
I've got to be honest, I don't really know much about my dad's side of the. I'm going to have to find, because I'm estranged from him anyway, so I'm going to have to do it
Yeah.
in a round. I'm going to have to do it through my cousin in a roundabout way. But I
you
know
should.
my uncle actually did the family tree on my dad's side, and from what I can gather, he went straight back to 1700 and whatever. So I'm
I
gonna
s-
have to try and get in touch with my cousin through my cousin and see if he'll send me a copy of the family tree on my dad's side.
you should, because I want to know if we're related.
Yeah, yeah, because some of your family originate back from where I'm originally from.
Exactly.
So there is a chance if we go back, we could have shared relatives at some point.
Hmm.
Yeah, I had a friend growing up, and he was O'Brien, and that family was actually from Banagher in County Offaly.
There you
I
go.
don't know if there's any connection there with
You might have
your.
another connection there, Julie.
Let me write that down, and then I can check my tree.
You're probably going to have to get Sam to spell it because it probably ain't spelt the way it sounds.
Yep. All right. County.
County Offaly, OFF.
Yep.
Fuck, I can't spell it now. Hold on, I Google it here.
All right. And what was it, Bannerman?
Banagher, County Offaly. I can't spell that either, so I'm going to Google it.
Yeah, but let's be honest, Sam. A lot of these Irish places they ain't spelt like they sound anyway.
Banagher. County, Coffally.
Coffally.
Offaly.
Offaly.
Yes.
How many counties are in Ireland, Sam? There ain't many, is there?
26 in Republic, 32 altogether.
Oh, Christ, there's more than I thought there was.
Yeah, 26 counties in the Republic of Ireland and 32 in the whole island
The whole
as a
island,
whole. Yeah. Some of them are small, some of them are large.
Yeah. I don't think there's that many in England. I'm going to Google how many there is.
Could be a few.
Yeah, but some of them are really big. The one where I live, Yorkshire, is the biggest one in the country. 27 in England.
Right.
That's just England now, ain't including Wales and Scotland.
See, goes back from the shop.
You could put your tongue away now, Julie.
I didn't know you went to the shop. It's It's repeating.
Yeah. We've got a really bad echo. We've got a proper feedback.
I don't know if that's me or not. We might end the live anyway, and we can look
turn
up
your volume down.
Who?
You.
I didn't touch my volume.
You've just nearly blew my ear rolls out.
That's probably why the echo happened.
I didn't touch it.
Honestly, your volume's right up.
I'll just sit back here.
It's just a surge of some kind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus
Probably
Christ!
Thought it was me.
I thought my ear. I've got blocked ears at the moment. That's done them some good. I think that's just cleared them out.
They're probably clear now.
Honestly, you're sounding entirely different now and really loud.
It could be my internet too. I might end the live.
Okay. So you sound like you're inside a tin bucket.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is different.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for coming along tonight.
Yes, thank you for coming.
Thanks very much for the invite. Nah.
Thank you, Sam and Brett, for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having us.
You're welcome. Bye, everyone.
We'll see you next week.
Will do.
Yes.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.